There is another reason why Enlil and his team were allowed to land on Earth. They were the advanced guards of the Queen. And as such, they were allowed to travel anywhere within the Orion Empire to which our solar system belonged before the Sirians won the war and took over. It now officially belongs to the Sirian Empire. I can see that as being a possibility. But we still have the peace agreement to take into consideration. The Sirians were allowed to expand their empire in this subsector of the galaxy. This means that they were allowed to claim Earth as their planet. And that makes sense, because one very reliable source has told me that Enlil was very disturbed and angry when he saw the nano-second and the Titans being situated here on the King of Kings planet. So there are still questions that need answers here. A third thing I have been pondering is why the Queen and the Orions have let the Sirians go on for so long here on Earth. And of course, elsewhere. If the Orion Empire is so powerful, again, it must have to do with that the Sirians are superior in warfare. And the Queen is holding back so she can keep her position in the 4% as a physical manifestation of herself. This is the only answer I can find to this question. It all comes back to the same thing. The Orion Empire is not as technologically advanced as the Sirian Empire. And lastly, and this question may actually have a quite satisfactory answer. When the Queen told ENKI to start a new experiment, why did he do it on Earth, where his stepbrother had such a stronghold and was acting in such a violent manner? We know that Prince ENKI somewhere along the line started working with his brother and his father. But the question is, did the Queen suggest that her son started the new experiment on Earth? Or was this Ia's own plan? There are indicators that this was Prince Ia's idea, and that the Queen wanted him to start it elsewhere, away from Lord ENLIL and the Sirian occupants. But at the same time, if we humans have the code embedded in our DNA, and I really think we do, in fact, I'm pretty sure, why would he start the experiment elsewhere? The code, when broken at the right time, which is now, in the nano-second and after, has to do directly with Earth, the living library. So, I don't see how Ia could have taken the experiment elsewhere. Therefore, it's much more plausible that the Queen actually asked Prince Ia to take her experiment to Earth and develop her new star race here. She knew it would be a very tough and often heartbreaking thing to do, knowing how the Sirians are and how they oppress their slave races. But putting us here was the only way to save the living library. The Queen knew we would suffer in the hands of the Sirians, but it was the price she and we humans have had to pay to be able to re-establish ourselves as the guardians of the living library now, when the nano-second are gone. However, Ia was his father's son and took the experiment in a totally different direction, far from how the Queen wanted it to be. But perhaps the Queen foresaw this as well, knowing that Ia would rather follow his stepfather's directions than hers. But again, this was the only way to do it, and there would still be a slim chance that the experiment would succeed, in spite of Enki's betrayal and the Sirian domination. I feel this is quite close to the truth. Much of the above is brought up here because I am hearing from many sources that the Orion Empire is more or less unbreakable and much superior to the Sirian. If I were to hold that position as well, my papers wouldn't make sense. So this section must be seen as a disclaimer to the information available to us humans today. In spite of that, the sources we have available to us are telling us differently. The Orion Empire is not unbreakable, and everything points in the direction that the Sirians are technologically stronger than the Orions, although the Orions may be stronger in many other, more important ways. I see no problem with this, because really, what is wrong with that? I understand that the information I have had available to me, and which overall is the information that absolutely seems most plausible of all information out there, for different reasons want to put Orion before Sirius when comes to being most technologically powerful. But if the facts show differently, we need to stick to what the facts indicate. And let's think about it. Many people believe that God, or the goddess, or whomever they think is the prime creator, must be all-knowing. This is not true. If this would be the case, why then did the goddess create the 4% universes for parts of herself to explore and experience in order for her to get to know herself? Therefore, it's no contradiction that the Sirians very well can be more technologically advanced than the Queen. They have learned something new, which would only be possible if the goddess let her creations create freely. Some of the above questions I have is just missing information and not a big deal. The only thing that really bothers me is, why did the Queen promise to back up the Sirians against their enemies, which would most of the time be our friends? I hope that one day, I will get an answer to this question. Often the answer is so simple that it's overlooked. So we'll see. The last paper in the second level of learning will be a continuation of this paper, suggesting more solutions to problems we are facing and which I have described. And of course, use discernment when reading it, and feel if it resonates with you or not.